In this video, we are going to go over the product rule. You will use this rule when you are taking the derivative of a function that is actually a product of two other functions, hence the product rule. It's really straightforward and not that bad at all, so let's dive right in. This is normally how you are going to see the product rule written, right? So the derivative of f of x times g of x equals the derivative of f of x times g of x plus the derivative of g of x times f of x. Now, don't get all caught up in the what's g of x, what's f of x. That's just going to lead down a road that'll end up with you being confused, right? All you need to know is that you have two functions that are being multiplied together, right? Function 1 and function 2. And the derivative of that product is the derivative of the first function times the second function plus the derivative of the second function times the first function. Let me show you some examples. Our first example asks us to find the derivative of x times sine of x, right? And given all of our previous methods, we wouldn't know how to solve this. And also we can see that x is a function, right? If I gave you f of x equals x, you'd say, yeah, that's a function. And also sine of x is a function, right? If I told you f of x equals sine of x, that makes sense. You could graph that. So we have a function times another function, so we're going to use the product rule. First step in using the product rule, you have to identify your two functions. So function 1 is x, and function 2 is sine of x, right? And honestly, it doesn't matter which one is function 1 and which one is function 2. It doesn't matter. All that really matters here is that our initial function, x sine of x, is the product of these two other functions. The second step with the product rule is to take the derivative of functions 1 and functions 2. So the derivative of function 1 is the derivative of x, which is just 1. And the derivative of function 2 is the derivative of sine of x, which we know from our properties to be cosine of x. Now we have all the pieces that we need. So for our derivative, it is going to be the derivative of function 1, which is 1, times function 2, which is sine x, plus the derivative of function 2, which is cosine of x, times function 1, which is x. So 1 times sine x plus cosine x times x. So I'm just going to rewrite that as sine x plus x times cosine x. And that's it. That's our answer. Let's do another one. This next problem tells us to find f prime of x, where f of x equals x minus 2 times 2x minus 3. And you could multiply this out, FOIL it out, and then take the derivative and distribute it over all the pieces like we've been doing in earlier videos. But this is just to show you that there are multiple ways to solve each problem, and we're going to use the product rule on this one just to show how the product rule works. So what are our two functions? The two functions are the two things being multiplied together. So function 1 is x minus 2, and function 2 is 2x minus 3. Okay, so let's take the derivative of function 1. That is the derivative of x minus 2, which is 1 minus 0, or just 1. And the derivative of function 2 is the derivative of 2x minus 3, which is 2 minus 0, which equals 2. And now we have all the pieces that we need. So f prime of x is the derivative of function 1, which is 1, times function 2, which is 2x minus 3, plus the derivative of function 2, which is 2, times function 1, which is x minus 2. So now we just do some algebra and we simplify, and we get that equals 2x minus 3 plus 2x minus 4, which gives us that f prime of x equals 4x minus 7. Let's do another one. This problem asks us to find y prime, where y equals sine of x times cosine of x. Well, okay, we don't know how to do this with our earlier ones, and we're taking the product of two functions, right? Sine of x and cosine of x are both functions in and of themselves. So this is the product rule. And so what are our two functions? Again, they're the two things being multiplied together. So function 1 is sine of x, and function 2 is cosine of x. Now we take the derivatives. So the derivative of the first function is the derivative of sine of x, which we know just to be cosine of x. The derivative of function 2 is the derivative of cosine of x, which we know to be negative sine of x. Now we have all the pieces that we need, right? So y prime is the derivative of function 1, which is cosine of x, times function 2, which is also cosine of x, plus the derivative of function 2, which is negative sine of x, times function 1, which is sine of x. So cosine of x times cosine of x plus sine of x times negative sine of x. We simplify that, and we get that y prime is cosine squared of x minus sine squared of x. This final example tells us to take the derivative of 2 times cosine squared of x. And now, this might not look like a product rule problem straight off the bat, but remember, cosine squared x is cosine x times cosine x. So we can rewrite this problem as 2 times cosine x times cosine x. So what are our two functions going to be? Well, what are the things getting multiplied? Okay, well, 2 cosine x is a function, right? So if I told you to graph 2 times cosine x, you could do it. So that's a function. And then that would make our other function, function 2, just cosine x. So that's function 1 and function 2, and now we take derivatives. So the derivative of function 1 is the derivative of 2 cosine x, which ends up being 2 times negative sine x, which is negative 2 times sine of x. And now the derivative of function 2 is the derivative of cosine x, which is just negative sine x. And again, we have everything we need, right? So our derivative is the derivative of function 1, which is negative 2 sine x, times function 2, which is cosine x, plus the derivative of function 2, which is negative sine x, times just function 1, which is 2 cosine x. So we put that all together, and we get negative 2 sine x times cosine x plus 2 cosine x times negative sine x. We simplify that a bit, we get negative 2 sine x cosine x minus 2 sine x cosine x, which ends up being negative 4 sine x cosine x. And that is it, guys. See, it's really not that bad if you take your time, break the functions apart, and deal with it piece by piece. It's really not that bad, I promise. Well, if you like this video or if you learned something, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll keep the math content coming your way.